All right, guys, what's up? Welcome to Onelife Podcast. Here with Heather. Heather is a personal trainer.
Yes.
Used to be a amateur boxer.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Of course.
Let's, I want to start. I love women's self-defense. I have a 8-year-old daughter. Nice. I have a sister. I have a mother. I think it's very important that females learn to defend themselves. So I want to touch on what got you into boxing. What do you love about boxing?
Honestly, boxing is my favorite sport.
It is your favorite sport?
It's my favorite sport because it's such a good physical workout, but there is a lot of mental aspect in boxing. Like you really find out who you are when you're boxing. It's a solo sport. You know, I grew up playing basketball and softball, so I played that all throughout high school and college. And it's a team sport. You have your team to rely on in success and failure. So it's a kind of a different animal.
The individual thing, right?
The individual
like weight
thing.
training, boxing, Muay Thai.
Exactly.
I'm more the individual type guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel we grow the most being in our individual selves because there's no one to rely on but yourself.
And yeah, if you're self-motivated, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't need a team to encourage me to go to training or push hard.
And it's like a double-edged sword because you have it that way, like, I don't need the team, I can do this. And you do feel a little bit more satisfaction in your success. But also, like, when you fail, you can't blame your teammate. You can't blame that person. You failed because of you. So the accountability really, like...
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Was someone in your family boxing? Like, what got you into it? Like, what makes you go out and start boxing?
It was super random. Like I said, I went to college and I played basketball and softball. I even did a year of track in college. So I grew up playing sports, was always used to doing sports. And when I moved back home after college, I lived in Oregon for college. I moved back home and it was the first time in my life where I didn't have a sport to play.
How old were you at the time?
I was about 22.
Oh, so you weren't young?
Oh, no, Like, I think all the time I wish I was a kid when I started boxing, but...
Most boxers start young, right?
They start at 7, 8, 9. Like, I literally started right around 22.
Did you really?
And it was just to be a hobby. I was like, I don't have any sports to play. I'm losing my mind. I was working at the gym. I was at like 24 Hour Fitness at the time, just working front desk, doing my thing. And one of the guys I would talk to all the time, older gentleman, he was like, you should come box. Because I was telling him, like, I'm losing my mind. This is my first time in my life where I'm not playing in a sport. And after college, like, if you don't go pro, you don't really have sports to compete in. There's like small leagues around, but like that real competition.
Yeah, you lose that sense of...
that drive to compete.
Yeah.
You have a game coming up, a tournament coming up. After college, you realize, like, if you don't go pro, you really don't have anything much to do.
Now you fit into society in real life, which is boring.
And I was like, well, this feels weird.
This sucks, actually.
This is kind of crazy. But no, yeah, I went and I boxed a couple times with him. He's like, wow, you're actually really good. So he took me
Really?
to... Yeah,
you just
it was
had natural talent, did you?
Just natural talent.
What natural talent do you
athletic.
have for boxing?
Honestly, like, you should come to a boxing session with me.
Yeah,
so
I'd love
you
to.
can see it in person.
I'd love to.
But it's just like, obviously being lefty is super advantageous in boxing. So I box as a southpaw.
Oh, okay, you're southpaw.
And I like lefty and everything. So like I'm a true lefty.
So you throw with your left hand and things?
Throw with my left, I write with my left, like everything lefty.
Okay.
Which is great in sports. It's a little inconvenient in real life. But in sports, it's great. Yeah, it's like
it's a nice
huge.
advantage.
So that was kind of like an advantage. And I've always been really quick. I've always been light on my feet. I'm like very long, slender, which is great for boxing.
How tall are you?
5'8".
You got real long reach though.
Nice long reach. Like I could just jab them out all day.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, they would tell me, they were like, your frame, your body, your background, like everything is built for you to be a boxer. I don't know why you haven't been boxing your whole life.
That's interesting.
But yeah, no, I went in there and he took me to his coach, was like this super old school Cuban boxer guy. Like he grew up in Cuba, won national titles, came to America, pro boxer, like just super hardworking, disciplined, old school coach. And he brings me to him and, you know, it's like the old school Rocky movies. Like he doesn't say anything. He just watches me and nods his head. And I swear he hates me.
Yeah,
and then at the end, he was like, I'll train her. And
oh, really?
So I'm like 22 years old. This guy's going to take me on. And he didn't really like charge me much. He just said, come show up to training. It was all boys. So he's like, show up, do the work. If you like fuck up, I'm not going to train you anymore. Basically, it's like, I'm doing you a favor. And at 22, you know, I'm broke. Like I can't afford to pay a trainer 6 days a week.
Yeah, yeah.
But he trained me 6 days a week, 2 hours a day. And after 6 months, I had my first fight. And I did like so well, you know, like
Really?
I really surprised people, even myself. I went against a girl who was like, you know, pretty stacked up. When you looked at her, she just looked like, you know, she's probably going to kick my ass. And I remember my dad being like, Mija, why are you doing this? Like,
yeah,
they don't really get it. I'm like, Dad, I have to do this.
I was going to ask, I'll ask you that now. What do your parents think about you as a boxer?
So my dad, like, now he loves it. But when I first got into it, he was like, why are you doing this? Like,
you're going to get hurt.
You're going to get hurt. Like, and the girl, like, she was just like a buff, intimidating looking girl. So I understood. And, you know, I'm just like, kind of like, I'm very humble, quiet, just like, I don't really say much. I just go in there and do work. And I remember I just went in there, and I have a really good straight left hand. Like, as an Orthodox, they don't see it coming that well. And I remember the first time I landed it on her, I saw her eyes get all big, and I felt a little bad, but I won that fight. And like I said, I won every fight I had except one. And so my dad's been like super proud, but he was very surprised. Like, he just didn't get it. Like, why are you putting yourself in a position to maybe get hurt and doing it in front of all these people?
Yeah, it's interesting.
So
if you don't compete with like boxing or martial arts, it's actually one of the safest things you can do, isn't it? I think a lot of people think like it's unsafe. It's way safer than football or even soccer, things like that.
Well, like
it's so controlled.
It's so controlled. Like in, you know, football, sports like that, there's not a lot of control. You're running, smashing, hitting. You're doing it every practice. And this is what I tell people too. Sometimes they think like, oh, if I start boxing, I'll get hurt. But really, like, if you're not competing, you're rarely having punches thrown at you. You're training to learn boxing, but if you're not competing, you're really not in danger. There's a lot of control. That's the big thing about boxing, is learning how to have power and control it, how to not hurt each other. Like,
that's the thing, right? Being able to stop a punch half an inch or a centimeter for someone's face is control.
It's huge amount of control.
And working at your own pace too, right? It's not 100%. It's barely ever 100%.
Oh, barely ever. And that's kind of what I like. When I try to teach people, you know, I get a lot of like my lifter guys who come in, they want to box and everything is power, power, power. And I'm like, anybody can throw a punch at 100%. Anybody can. But can you throw a punch at 82%? Like that's where you start learning control within your power, which is, I think, like an overlooked aspect in a lot of sports. You don't have to control it. You just bang the weights and you go. But in boxing, depending on who you're sparring, how you're moving, you have to have control.
And the power, like someone who throws a ball really well, it's not a big muscly guy. Yeah. It's somebody who can start here and finish here.
It's all technique.
And literally and that's exactly the same as throwing a punch or a kick or an elbow.
Yeah.
It's all technique, and the power comes with technique.
Exactly.
And the cleaner that technique, the more you're able to finesse it. Yes. That's where the power comes. And then you get the snap and...
Oh, there's so much to it.
Yeah, there's so much to it. That's what makes it so cool.
That's like what I try to teach people too, is like having control. I don't know what it is, but when I get people early in boxing, everything's about going hard and fast to them. And I'm like, just slow down. Speed will come if your technique is perfected. And, you know, I'll do like an example, and then they go in there and like they get flustered because they didn't do it the same. And they're like, you made it look so easy. I'm like, it's taken me years to get to finesse. You're not going to have that right away. To go from
like this to like...
To just like... All right,
your traps when you first start, they get so tight because you're holding so tight.
Everyone does that when they start. They're like, and I'm like, okay, just take a deep breath, relax,
breathe.
And I tell them it's like dancing. Like if you just flow and you go, you're gonna be great. If you're thinking and holding, you're just gonna look like a jackass probably, and it's not gonna flow right.
No, absolutely.
So
that's awesome.
It's honestly a great thing to teach to people. And like I said, my dad's super supportive that I do it now, and I've turned it into a career. My mom grew up as like a dancer, but she would do like combat sports, like karate for kind of movement, but she was a dancer. She passed away when I was 19. I was in college. So she never got to see me fight. That's like a thing I think about all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
But my dad would always tell me like, you know, if anyone would be like cheering you on right now, it'd be your mom.
She was into all
this shit. He would say that. He's like, you're just like your mom. So like she's into all this. You get it.
So he didn't get it. Got it.
But he was like, she would be here cheering you on. So do your thing.
That's, as a female learning to defend yourself, what is it like? Do you really start to feel more comfortable? Do you feel safer? Because I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't realize that anybody who can throw a good punch can knock down anybody.
Yeah.
I've had the smallest people tap me, and it's most humbling thing ever.
Oh,
muscle means nothing.
It really does.
You get hit on the chin, you get hit at the solar plex, the ribs. It hurts just as bad no matter how big you are. So did you find a sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Just a sense of being able to take care of yourself, like.
Yeah, and this is like something that I really preach to like the girls that I train. There is no better feeling than walking around knowing that you can handle yourself with most people. That you're not like this fragile
victim,
girl, victim. That, you know, like the confidence, the assurance, obviously like people think it's opposite, like, oh, you're a boxer, you must want to fight people. And I'm like, I don't fight people. I don't argue with people. I was having this conversation last night.
The better the fighter, the less likely you are to get into a fight.
Exactly.
And the better I got at fighting, the less likely I ever got into a fight.
The better fighter you are, the more quiet you are. It's the people who are always loud and want to fight everyone that really like get their ass kicked.
You shake hands with a good fighter, they will give you the most respectful. They'll look you in the eyes. They'll shake your hand. They will match the strength.
Yeah.
They won't try to roll you over. They're not trying to intimidate. They got nothing to prove.
Yeah.
They prove it in the ring. They prove it in the training. They prove it to themselves. That's
a huge thing. I think that, like many girls just don't understand how important it is to be able to protect yourself if you need to walk around like with your chest up and your shoulders back and be that confident person who's never going to be a victim. Like I said, I've never really been in a situation where I've had to. I've been in one fight in my whole life in middle school during a basketball game, and a girl just punched me in the face out of nowhere, so I had to. But like adults who like are out fighting and, like I really don't support or believe in that.
No.
But I also know like I feel generally fine walking to my car at night. I feel generally fine like going by myself places.
Which is awesome, right?
And it's such a freeing feeling because like, as females, we do go through life a little bit different. And like you're always taught like, don't be alone, don't go out at night, don't, walk to your car without a friend, send your people your location. Like,
yeah, you're getting taught what not to do. You're not getting taught like
what to do.
What to do.
Here's how to make yourself independent and strong and not full of fear, and test yourself and know like you said, if you know how to throw a punch, that's all you need. One good punch and then scram.
It doesn't take much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had so Donovan, he teaches Krav Maga here in Las Vegas, and he's like, he's all about female self-defense. He's like, if you're a female, you don't train, you're a victim. You're making yourself a victim.
100%.
And I know that's pretty harsh, but it's you hear so many stories, and like, well, okay, what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, getting back into Muay Thai, and I feel so much lighter. I feel so much ready to go if I had to. And it's not that I want to or I'm going to, but I feel ready. And every day I'm just feeling sharp, and I'm feeling back to where, and I love that feeling.
It's a different way to go through life.
Yeah, that confidence that comes with it. Not that arrogance, not the cockiness, the confidence.
Just the confidence and self-assurance.
It's there when you want it.
Exactly.
Or like, if you need it.
If you need it. It's this little hidden superpower that is there if you need it because you've created it. So I tell people like, the whole like being a superhero, like that's something all kids looked up to, I look up to. But I'm like, you don't have to have superpowers to be a superhuman, because most people are very average, very lazy, very out of shape, really can't do anything. So if you just work out a little bit and you eat healthy a little bit and you take some lessons in a combat sport, you're already above 80% of the population. Like you can be a superhuman in this life.
Even in business, right? If you have integrity, you're punctual, you actually take some action. It's not hard to separate from the masses these days. And it's becoming easier.
It's becoming easier and easier, especially these days.
Everyone's so complacent. Everyone instant gratification. Nobody wants to work for anything.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. And the thing is, like, you and I surround ourselves with similar-minded people.
Yeah.
And you work at a gym, so everybody's fit, everybody's training.
Yeah.
And it's not till you go to an airport or you go to a theme park, you're like,
oh gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is how actually most of the world is. It's kind of scary, isn't it?
It's extremely scary. I actually went to Disney World recently with a couple of the trainers from the gym. And like we have our little crew. We're all pretty fit. You
guys are all like,
like we're all fit. We're all walking around, like generally eating and drinking healthy. Like we're just like our own little crew. And this was the first time I had gone to Disney World, right, in Florida. And I remember just like looking around, and at least half the people there were riding those scooters for disabled people.
They weren't walking.
And they weren't disabled. They were just either lazy, severely overweight. There was a lot of like obese people there, not just like, oh, a little chunky, no big deal. But like you can tell it was hard for them to walk. It was hard for them to breathe. Their kids were outrunning them while they were in the back, like sweating and dying. And that's what I noticed. Like in this theme park, this is America, or most people in general.
It's
tired, lazy, not keeping up with the pack.
It's kind of scary, right?
It's really scary.
Yeah.
Because you find that population is growing, and like almost like taking care of your health and fitness is like a minority nowadays, or you're crazy or you're weird.
You're weird. It's not acceptable. If you cook food at home and you take it to work with you, that's weird. That's abnormal.
It's abnormal.
It's abnormal, right? Like I'm 43. Like how old are you? Don't mind me asking.
32.
Yeah, so I mean, like it's different, and the younger that it is, the more acceptable it is to eat out, and it's. I really don't know how we turn it around. It's kind of scary how bad it's getting,
and it's getting there so fast.
Yeah, it's speeding up, right?
Yeah.
And it's becoming acceptable, and the sugar and everything. Everyone's overweight, and then if you can't walk, hey, here's a machine to take you around.
Take it instead of fixing the issue of why you can't walk.
Even if you're in a plane seat and you're overflowing and you're on, like you and I are skinny, right? If someone's big next to us, that's not fair. But there's no rules governing that. The fact that you need to stay in your own seat, like,
and that's a huge thing now too. I went on that flight to Orlando, and I'm like a pretty chill, non-judgmental. I just sit and do my thing. But the gentleman in the middle row was like a huge gentleman.
Really spilling over
like,
to you,
spilling over to me. And I remember like having this internal thought process, like, God, am I like a bitch because I'm thinking this? But like, bro, why do I have to be so uncomfortable because you don't take care of your life? I'm like literally over here just like, really uncomfortable.
You don't want to be that person, anything. But for the last 25 years, I have made good decisions.
Yeah.
That's why I'm able to, and that person hasn't, and why should that person affect me?
Exactly.
It pisses me off.
Me too. And I have to remind myself, like, no, I shouldn't feel bad at all, because I'm working so hard to live a certain way, to enjoy things a certain way, to fit into certain things, and just like be healthy and be an example. And there's a lot of that, like, okay, now I have to be squished on this 6-hour flight because you don't take care of yourself. Like, it's kind of a shit show. And I mean, don't get me wrong. When I was in college, like, I was eating fast food and I was BSing.
When you're young.
When I'm 20 years old.
But you realize that it catches up on you if you don't make change. I remember eating a lot of junk when I was early 20s, but guess what? I learned what I could and couldn't get away with over the years. I'm at a point where you're constantly refining.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're basically giving up.
Especially the older you get, like you said, we're real adults now. It's our responsibility to have the health we want to have, to make the money we want to make, to have the body, like whatever it is, it's our responsibility. So
I always say I love hearing that.
If you don't have it, then it's your decision.
You only dictate
You are
that.
choosing to live like that.
Yeah.
But when, people hear it from us and like we're the bad guy or we're judgmental or we're mean, and we're just laying out how it is.
I just do my thing for me. And like when I was younger, I was a little bit more judgmental. Now I just kind of do me for me.
Yeah.
But if someone's whinging about, not making more money, or do I look fat in these jeans? That's when I have an issue. Because shut up and do something about it.
Do something about it. Don't come to me with your pity party. I am described as the friend in my group that if you need to know the truth about something, ask Heather. Like, she's just going to tell you what it is.
But that's a real friend in my opinion.
That's how I feel about it.
That's how you want your friends to be like that.
Those are the people I appreciate the most, and obviously, like, it's still important to be tactful and respectful. Like, I really believe in that. But there's so many people that no one around them will tell them the truth. They'll let you go. They'll let you go through life being not a good version of yourself, not living to your highest standard, and letting you be complacent, usually because they are too.
You remind me of myself. I'm very black and white with people. There's no gray area.
Yeah.
Gray area doesn't do anything for anybody.
It doesn't.
And if I tell you, it's okay, blah, 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 that's not helping anything.
Honestly, it's not. It's the opposite. You are trying to save yourself an awkward conversation. So in terms, you're being nicer to yourself than the person who really needs, like, people think just because I tell people the truth, like, it's easy, and it's not. Sometimes I'm like, it's hard to have this talk with this person, but if they're seeking me out, it's my responsibility to be uncomfortable so that they can hear what they really need to hear. Because maybe it flips that switch for them to make that change. Yeah,
and I've always said that, like, if you and I are friends and I tell you something, you get upset, and now we're not friends, but you make change because of it, I'm happy.
Hey, I like that a lot.
You might come back in a year, you might come back in 5 years, you may not come back at all. But if you make change because of what I said, I'm good with that.
That is so true. I like that a lot.
That's very hard to do.
It is.
But I think you got to be that person. And by being that person, you attract those people to your life too, right? Yeah. People hold you hold other people accountable, and they hold you accountable.
Yeah. It's the oldest saying, birds of a feather. Like, I tell that to my people all the time, whether it's my friends, my family, my clients. You need people around you who want to see you do better and are willing to tell you the things that it's going to take to do better.
I love that. And that's where, like, being a coach and yeah, that's awesome. So you had an injury that stopped your boxing. Talk to me about that. How was it?
So I was boxing, doing my thing, like starting to kind of get known, like, in Vegas, because for like amateurs, you go to a weigh-in and there's like probably 100 boys there, but there'd be like 15 girls. So like,
okay, so you start to stand out.
Yeah, you start to stand out. And I had a pretty good record going, and I got invited out to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. And the only way you can get invited out to train with that team is you either qualify through a national tournament or a recruiting coach just has to see you and personally invite you out. So I got invited out by a recruiting coach. I won all my amateur fights except one. And the one that I lost was the one that I got invited out to, because you've seen boxing, even the person who loses, like, you still do well. It's still a great fight. So I got invited out. He's like, hey, like, I like what you're doing. We had a whole sit down. He's like, get your conditioning up. Come see me in 6 weeks, right? So we had a little plan. And I would say about 4 weeks later, I tore my ACL playing football. I don't know if you remember the LFL is a women's tackle football league. Mm-mm. They started as like that lingerie league. Then they got bought out.
Oh,
and then
okay.
it just became like a women's tackle league.
Oh, so you're wearing just regular clothes?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
You'd be like, your pads, sports bra, spandex. I think now they wear like full pants and everything.
Oh, really?
It was like a mix. Like
okay.
hot girls playing football. But they were on TV this year. They had like their all-star game in Brazil. So like there was a lot of opportunity going on. I got recruited. I made the team. It was great. Of course, my boxing coach was like, don't play football. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
You just got invited out to the Olympic Training Center.
I'm seeing red flags
like,
straight away.
But, I'm like, in my mid-20s, I am like, coach, I'm an athlete. I can do anything. And for my whole life, I've played multiple sports, and I've never had a serious injury
you've been fine.
In my whole life.
Yeah.
And then I started playing football, which obviously is a lot of uncontrolled impact. The very first scrimmage of the season, I tear my ACL. Not just partial, I completely snap it on a hyperextension. So I'm kind of in denial for a couple of weeks, and I'm just waiting for the results for them to really tell me. I'm like, maybe it's not really torn, maybe, like just all this BS. They call me, and they tell me that it's like completely snapped. I'm going to need a full like replacement. I ended up getting a cadaver in it. But because of the opportunities I was having at this time, like I remember once they called me, like I just started crying. And I called my dad and the guy I was dating at the time. And I'm just like crying. And they're like, what's wrong? You would have thought that they told me they were going to amputate my leg, like by my reaction. But it was just all these opportunities I had basically worked my whole life to get to. Like, a like women's football league that has some respect and is on TV. Oh, the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, like for boxing. Like those are huge deals, right?
Yeah.
So I go through the surgery and I get recruited out to another football camp for the LA team. And I'm trying to get back into fighting. So I'm like doing my dumb shit again, doing both. And I go back a little bit too early. The very last
to the football,
yeah. And the doctor's like, you can't be cutting, you can't be running, you can't be jumping. Like you can lift, but all this running around, like you cannot do it right now.
You probably should be playing football, full stop.
He told me, he's like, you shouldn't be playing football anymore, especially if you do like want to do all these other things. But I'm just such like, and I was a kid. I'm like, I needed one of you
there to like, hey, what are you doing?
I needed my mom there to be like, listen, I know you like to do it all, but not right now.
Yeah.
Choose one. The very last drill of the training camp, and I killed the training camp. Like I was like, I played wide receiver. I was that girl who stuck out. Like I did my thing, I don't say anything. I just go and perform. And it's like, okay, like she really knows what she's doing. But the last drill of the training camp where we start doing laterals, cuts, and then on the like one of the last cuts, I just hear pop, pop. And my sister was there with me and she even saw it. She was like, I saw it right when that happened to you because, like your whole body just kind of was like, ugh. And then I went down and then, I'm like about to cry again. And they're like, yeah, so I re-injured. And after that, I really had to sit down and really rehab my knee for about 2 years. Like
That's
do the physical.
Time, right?
It's a long time. And it was only that long because I didn't do it right the first time. Metaphor for life, right? I didn't do it right the first time. I tried to take shortcuts. I went against like a professional doctor's orders and I re-injured and now I have to really sit even longer.
It's kind of like sharpening that saw type of analogy.
It's exactly like that. But I'm still a big believer that everything does happen for a reason. And, sitting down and slowing down and going through the rehab of really fixing my knee so I could get to this point one day, I really ramped up my business, my career, my coaching. I started putting way more time into my people than I did myself, which they needed it at that time.
You started redirecting the focus.
It was a redirection and a focus. And, I don't compete anymore, but I still go out on the weekends and play football with my friends. I still like train and spar. I just don't compete. But now I have all this extra time to give it to people who really need it. Like the people who aren't confident, the people who aren't sure of themselves, the girls who are like afraid to be alone or afraid to leave the relationship or whatever the thing is that like I think boxing brings out of somebody, like your inner self, your independence. And I think about all my clients all the time. They're like basically all my friends. And I feel very lucky that I got to a point where I can just give this all to them. Everything I have, I give it to them and just watch them flourish on their own.
That's amazing. As far as like mentality and things, like what has the boxing done for you? I mean, we talked about confidence. What else is that like? As it give it like mental strength, and how does that transition into like other things in your life?
A huge thing is like the mental strength, and something I learned a lot in boxing. Like when I was boxing, I'd mostly spar boys. It was mostly guys on the team. And I do a lot of conditioning like with the professional guys on my team. So it was always kind of like I had to keep up with them. I had to go what's beyond expected of like being a girl in the gym. I had to be at their level. And the second I wasn't, it would be, oh, because she's a girl. So I was always like...
You hated that stereotype, did you?
It's a stereotype. But it really does like... I don't really care about just being like the best girl at what I do. I want to be the best person at what I do. Whether it's boxing, whether it's making good money, whether it's providing for people. And a lot of that I learned in boxing. One thing my coach would kind of reiterate, because he was really hard on us. He was like old school. And it's not like how it is now. Like your coach would whack you right in the face if you were like, I rolled my eyes one time and I got kicked out of the gym and I never rolled my eyes again. It's just like old school Rocky type stuff.
I feel like kids need this stuff. So.
Every kid needs that. And you know, like growing up, you don't think it's a huge deal because people kind of let you get away with it. And I remember he was saying something one day and I just kind of like scoffed and rolled my eyes. And he told me to pack up my shit and leave. And I was like, what? And I left and I never rolled my eyes again. It's just like
That's funny.
Boxing is a respectful sport. You are there to learn, perfect. You're not there to like complain and do all this extra, talk back. And one thing that's like a huge metaphor that I learned a lot in sparring, you're going to get hit in the face and you have to keep going. Like you can't just, and you see people who take a hit in the face and they're done. They're done for the day. They don't ever want to spar again. And those are certain personality types. But when you get to the point of like getting hit in the face and not making a face, not cowering down, you just take it and you keep going. That's like life. Like you're going to get hit. And if the first time you get hit, you just fall down, you're never going to get anywhere. You have to take it and keep moving forward.
You know Mike Tyson's quote, right?
Which one?
Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Thank you. That's exactly how it is in the ring and in life.
I love that quote. I saw another quote from him recently. I couldn't quote it, but I really like the first one.
That's my favorite one because it's like that in the ring.
That's life.
But
business,
it's like that in life.
Oh my God, that's business.
Business, like if the first time you get hit in the face or you take a big loss or just something doesn't go right, you have to be able to adapt and make a new plan like right there.
Or you better go get a job and be secure.
Yeah, or something like that.
You need to figure out, it's that self-awareness. Do I want to go this path, which is never going to be easy, but it's going to have more reward? Or do I want to go the safe path and just cruise through life and not really accomplish anything?
Yeah. And that's, I feel like, what most people are constantly like battling through. You know, we have like people like us who do what we do. We have people like them who do what they do. But I think everyone wants to be that independent person who follows their dreams and makes it no matter how many times life knocks them down. Yeah,
it's just, are you willing to try? B, are you willing to get back up?
Yeah.
And then a big thing for me is reading, listening, learning, talking to people, realizing that no matter what I'm going through, someone's been through something 1,000 times worse, 1,000 more times.
Oh yeah.
And that gives you perspective. Like, hey, like right now we're going through stuff with the business and it's like, yeah, it sucks, but it's people being through way worse.
Yeah.
It'll work out.
And I think that a lot too. Sometimes it's kind of like keeps me humble when I'm like, upset about anything going on. And I think about how many people have it worse, how many people started from here. And I mean, to be honest, even like myself with my own story, I would say before my mom passed away, I was like very immature, didn't really think too much about people and life and consequences and sadness and all of that. And then, I was 19. It was very unexpected. It literally like rocked me. I never thought I could be so like depressed. I never ever thought it was possible for a human to feel like that bad. And obviously like it took me some years to get through it. And now at this point, anytime something shitty happens in life, no matter how bad it was or is, I'm like, okay, but I went through this and I was 19 and I dug myself out of that. There's literally nothing or nobody in this world that can take me down. Like,
yeah, it's the bigger the adversity, the more growth and the stronger you become afterwards.
And it's a humble growth because it's like, I feel so much more for other people's pain because I know how bad it really is. So when I meet people who are like sad or depressed or they're going through something, like I'm such a softer person because of that. And that's what the world needs. Like we have plenty of badasses, we need soft people.
I think women are so much better than that.
Generally, I would say, yeah.
So much better than that. Like, I get what you're saying, but I'm not as compassionate.
Yeah.
I wish I was able to do it. I need to get better at it.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying. I know you would be a lot better at that.
It's a powerful tool. And I used to like,
because guys need it just as much as girls.
they need it just like,
But guys aren't able to really give it to guys for some reason.
yeah. I think there's like maybe a stereotype around it. But I do find like, especially like now in my age as an adult, like the gentlemen I find myself like the most, attracted to are gentlemen that I respect because they're compassionate to other people and they can be soft with their bro. They don't always have to be like, oh, yeah, whatever the thing is. It's those guys who handle their shit, but they can be soft and compassionate when the event calls for it. Like, I think that's a huge deal, just like on a human to human basis.
That's interesting. So lately I've been creating a group of guys together, and for me, I work by myself, and I found myself like quite lonely all the time. Like, I'd say 90% of the time I'm by myself, I'm hustling, I'm self-motivated, I go in the gym by myself. And then I started like trying to be a little bit more vulnerable and show some vulnerability. And now I'm realizing I got a lot of big brute friends, and I'm finding out they're all going through the same thing. Yeah. They're all lacking friendship, people to be compassionate with. But it takes that one person to drop the guard a little bit and lead by example to try to help inspire and encourage others to do the same.
Yeah.
And it's only very early, but I'm excited to see where it goes. And as I do it, I get better at dropping that guard lower and lower. But it's so far out of my comfort zone. It's crazy.
And like you said, especially like for guys, it probably is like
it's
harder.
So weird.
It is like, but
I don't know why we are the way we are.
I think a lot of it is like society and expectations and like this is how these people should act and this is how these people should act. It is like
ego. I think also
a lot of ego.
Do. Like I look at my father. I've got an amazing father, but I've only seen him cry once in his life, and that's when his mother died.
Damn.
Besides that, like he was a firefighter. He worked in the hospital. He's just like your man's man. Always just like takes the role. Always been able to like keep everything going. So it's like, well, if I see that, why am I going to be soft?
Yeah.
And soft being like the word, right? Like, hey, soft isn't acceptable as a man.
It's kind of has like a negative connotation to it.
Even when I say it out loud, it feels negative.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't have to be.
It shouldn't, because I think like we need more men who are okay with being soft and more women who are like okay with being hard, and kind of mixing both of those in there. Kind of what like my dad's about the same, the way you describe yours. I only ever saw him cry 2 times in my life. Well, probably 3. When my mom passed away, when his mom passed away. And I think when my parents first separated when we were kids, I saw him cry.
Like traumatic stuff.
Just like very traumatic stuff.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my mom, on the other hand, like she would just cry because I looked so cute on my first day of school. I'm like, all right, like
completely different.
You see the differences, but I remember kind of growing up being like my dad. Like I never cried, I never showed emotion, and my mom would always tell me like, it's okay to show emotion. It's okay to be sad. You don't have to treat everything as a joke.
So I've never been told that in my life.
She would like really communicate that with me. And I'm telling you, I never understood it until after she passed away. And then I realized like, wow, like it's okay to cry. It's empowering to cry. And to cry, sometimes other people need to see that out of you, that we're all human and it's okay. Like now I'm like such a big baby and people think like, oh, she's a badass boxer. And I'm like, I heard this beautiful song today and it made me cry.
But that's awesome. That's really cool.
I think
Whereas I've never been told it's okay to cry.
It's okay. It's honestly like it is another tool, I think. Like you have to be willing to let it out sometimes or you get all pent up.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting saying that out loud.
Yeah, doesn't it feel good? Like, do you need a tissue?
You're training females. How's that been for you, and how's that been to see like these females building confidence and these abilities?
It's honestly like my favorite thing in the whole world.
Is it really?
I genuinely live for it, and sometimes I do like I have internal conversations with myself all the time.
What do you mean by that?
I'm constantly asking myself, like, why do I care about the things I care about, right?
Okay, that's a good thing to have.
Like, I think about it all the time, and I think about my clients. I train 80% female, about 20% male.
Okay.
But like something I see a lot, I think I attract people who need me.
Okay.
And so I'll get these personality types, and I'm training them, and like we go through metrics of progress, right? How can I see that they are progressing? And you have your basics like, oh, get on the scale. Or you have check their body fat, check their muscle mass, check, like da 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 da, right? And then there's a whole like another aspect that I look for the most in. Like example, I have a girl that I've been training for about 2 years now, right? Low confidence, always looked at the ground, never looked me in the eyes, didn't look at other people, barely talked, like just like whatever her upbringing was, she has never felt confident in her whole life. I'm pretty sure she's never dated, like just one of those people. And I get guys like that too. And then, we're training and I'm carrying the whole conversation for like a couple months, right? And they're getting more fit, they're feeling more confident, and eventually they start looking up. And they're not looking at the ground all the time. They walk into the gym looking up, or they look me in the eyes.
Starting to come out of the shell.
They start to come out of their shell. And then the dynamic shifts. I have at least 5 people on my team that the dynamic shifts, and where I used to always have to carry the conversation, now they're coming in, telling me about their day. Tell me this, tell me that, da 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 da. And
starting to date, things like that.
Starting to date,
How cool is that?
It's like the best feeling when I can just look at someone and see them walking with more confidence and handling themselves different. And I know like a lot of it was because of me and who I am and how I interact with them. And even when I'm like, like, you should do this. Oh, you should date this person. You should go here. You can tell no one in their life tells them they should do these things. There are more people that are like, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Those people.
Yeah, a lot of people have never been shown the permission, right?
Yeah.
Even as an entrepreneur, if your parents are entrepreneurs, there's not really a permission thing there. It's a little bit more open now, and you see it on social media. But if no one's ever told you can work for yourself, or you don't have to go to school, get good grades, get a good job to work 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
The whole spill. I like that. Like somebody, hey, you can do more. You can be more.
People telling you you can do more, you can be more. And I'll tell this to them too. I only tell you if I really believe it. If I think you're like a lost cause, I'll tell you. But most people
But that goes
aren't.
back to being the true friend, right?
Yeah. You have to, be that person for them. And, like my clients, like for whatever reason, I get a lot of clients who tell me really crazy off the wall like stuff. And they're like,
you hear crazy stuff, right?
Crazy stuff.
Like the therapist side of training. Yeah. I was a
it.
personal trainer for 8 years.
You're also a therapist.
You're a therapist.
And 100%. They'll tell you like, I haven't even told my spouse this. My kids don't know this. My parents don't know this. And whatever it is that creates that safe place for them to be vulnerable, to be themselves. And then I feel like they start seeing it within themselves. And all of a sudden they're actually like going out to events, and now they're meeting people and they're talking to people, or they're not wearing like baggy covered up clothes all the time. I even had an older lady, and she's like much older, probably in her 60s. And I always tease her and I'm like, don't tell me anything that makes me uncomfortable. She's like, me and my husband did XYZ and we never did before. And I'm like, I don't want to hear this, but I'm really happy for you. But it's like even little things like that, like having a healthier sex life, having a healthier dating life, like all the things that make the human experience, going to the pool party and not being ashamed. Like there's so many things that people don't do because they're not confident. And I'm like,
so many things.
We have such a small time on this little rock we're on. Like to go through it as anything less than happy, confident, outgoing, like experience and everything like that. It just like, it makes me feel bothered that other people don't go through life the way we do.
Yeah. And then I always say when you're 80, you're 90, you're on your deathbed, the only thing you have is regret.
Yeah.
And you talk to most people who are older, they'll tell you one thing, and that's the things they didn't do.
Yeah.
Because they'll worry about someone's opinion, or they'll worry about failing, or they'll worry about something stupid, which is so insignificant.
It's so insignificant.
If you and I are friends and I don't do something now at 43 because I'm worried about what you think, in a year's time, you may not even be in my life anymore.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that business because of what you said.
Yep.
It's so crazy. Never mind 5, 10 years later, never mind 20 years later.
Yeah.
You're not going to remember that person.
Ever.
So why did you not take action?
It's such a huge thing. People care so much about what other people think around them. And I mean, don't get me wrong, to a certain extent, I guess we all do, but really like living your life and realizing
doing it for you, right?
Doing it for you. Like we have, in the big scope of life, we're here for a blip on the timeline. So to not live every day like doing what you want to do, it's,
No, I 100% agree.
Dude, it makes me feel like just so, if I had a superpower, I would just go around and fucking save everybody. Like give everyone this life that we feel. But obviously it takes work, You have to get out there and you have to meet people and you have to go through experiences and failures and you have to be in the gym. There's so many things. You have to be uncomfortable
People aren't
live.
uncomfortable anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think so many people think it's fine to stay in this shell where you're not that uncomfortable and you just kind of go through life.
It's no growth from being uncomfortable. If you're not ever uncomfortable, there's no growth.
You'll never grow there.
Like, do you do things daily, weekly that make you uncomfortable?
I try, and my goal is to do something every single week that makes me uncomfortable, and honestly, like every day.
What type of stuff you do?
So it's like, on a small scale, getting up an hour earlier than I have to, right?
That's
like,
interesting.
It's the small thing, right? I don't actually...
That's actually huge. I can see the power in that.
But it's huge. I don't have to get up till this time. And if I get up this time, I have just enough time to do my morning and get to work. But if I wake up an hour earlier, which I'm a huge sleep person, it's very uncomfortable for me. But now I can do my little yoga routine in the morning. I can have a nice, pleasant breakfast. I can read my book.
That. I like that.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that. Just getting up for an hour early just because.
And like.
Just because you don't want to.
Because most people will be like, well, I don't have to. I'm not going to do it, right? I'm like the queen of doing random shit that makes me uncomfortable, and all my friends tease me about it all the time.
What other stuff you doing?
So like, right now I'm doing my dry January, right? I do dry January every year, so I'm like, all right, I'm not drinking January.
Oh, no alcohol?
No alcohol, right? Okay. Which to me is not a big deal, but to a lot of other people it is. And so like right now we're in January, I'm doing it for January. I do it every single January, but I just kind of feel it out and it ends when it ends.
Yeah.
So like last year I did it for January, and then I ended it on May 5th. So it lasted like the first half of the year. And we were out, I think we were out like last weekend, and I'm like dancing, partying. I'm still pretty crazy when I don't drink. Yeah. And one of my girlfriends started imitating me, and she was like, look, I'm drinking water. I'm doing a dry January. And I was like, wow, that was really good. But like, I do it to see if I can do it. Can I be uncomfortable? Can I be in the party scene with all you guys and not be tempted to do it?
Yeah, that's another way of doing it.
And it's like another superpower for me, because at this point, it's really easy. Like, I just do it. But to other people, it's like, well, why are you doing it? This is what they ask me. Are you on medication? Are you pregnant? Are you an alcoholic? Did someone tell you not to drink? And I'm like, no, I'm literally just doing it for myself, to take myself out of the norm of what everyone does, be a little uncomfortable when you're out with people.
Yeah, which is totally uncomfortable. I like that.
It is. Like when you're at the bar, and especially as a young girl, and like guys are like, what can I buy you? What can I buy you? And I'm like, I'll take a water. And they're like, come on, take a shot, take a drink, da-da-da. And then they start explaining to you why they're drinking and how they used to not drink. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. It's your life. Yeah, you don't have to explain yourself to me.
Everyone's got to justify things, right?
Yep.
Everyone's always justifying stuff to me.
Justifies.
I'm like, you don't need to just because I'm eating cleaner, I'm exercising, and I'm this, I'm that. You don't need to justify why you're not.
But
I'm living my life for me. I think what it does, it makes other people feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not judging you. I don't care. You do you, I do me.
Yeah.
So you don't need to justify your actions.
And I'm sure you see it a lot, probably like with healthy eating, right? If you're out with a friend,
healthy eating being the biggest one,
and you get something healthy, they either start explaining to you right away how they're starting a diet next week, or I used to eat like this, or blah, blah. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like,
you're not judging them at all.
There's no judgment.
Yeah.
And I have to tell my friends this, and sometimes I'll go out to eat with my clients and all that. And you can tell like they start ordering a certain way. And I'm like, look, I'm your friend right now. I'm not your personal trainer. Eat whatever you want. I'm putting this in my body because I like it. You do you. But you can tell, honestly, and it kind of goes back to making them better people. You're uncomfortable because you know you're not doing the things you should be doing. Yeah. And now you see someone else doing it so easily. And now you're like, shit, I can do it if they're doing it.
Yeah, that's it. You're making them accountable.
You're making them accountable just by living your own healthy life and leading by example.
Took the words out of my mouth. Leading by example. I love that.
It's a huge thing. I mean, I don't know if you catch up on my Instagram. I try to run outside like on a pretty regular basis. And sometimes it's pouring rain. And I'm like, I plan to run today, so I'm going on the run.
Yeah, everyone's so damn scared of the rain.
Dude, I'm like, I take it as an adventure. It makes me feel like a kid again.
We organized a cold plunge at Lake Mead this week. Started this week with a bunch of friends. And it was the day it was raining and windy. And my friend's like, the weather's terrible. Like, because you don't want to do it today is the reason why we're going to do it today.
And that's why.
I'm like, it's not a big deal. It's just rain.
It's just rain.
It's just rain. It's just a little bit of wind. It's going to be uncomfortable no matter what. So let's just do it.
You're going to get through it. And honestly, I think it's better in those situations.
It was the day before, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be windy and raining. I'm so excited. Yeah. I hope the weather is as awful as it can be.
Yeah.
And it was literally one of the worst days of the year. And I was like, I'm so happy about this.
You get more satisfaction out of it. Yeah. It's like, I love to run when it's a perfect, pretty day. But when I get done with a rain run, I feel like a badass. And I know that because I was uncomfortable, I'm going to be even better on easy day runs. Or when it's like, it'll be like 90, 100 degrees out. And especially my little old lady clients are like, you need to stop running in that. You're going to have a heat stroke or, whatever it is. I know my body. I hydrate. I do my thing. I'm not going to not run because it's really hot or really cold, because that's what everyone does in life. They don't take the job because this happened. They don't date the person because there's hard things. But if you do the hard things, you'll get the satisfaction out of it.
I did. So I just got a ice bath for, like, I'm in an apartment, so I don't have a lot of room, but I've got my own ice bath on the balcony now.
Nice.
And I made a video this morning. I really, really don't want to do this morning. Therefore, that's why I'm going to do this.
And that's why you have to do it.
And this is exactly why I'm doing it. And it was uncomfortable, and I did it, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I journal every day now because of this podcast. And
Nice.
I've created my own kind of sections, and one of the sections is comfort zone.
Okay.
What did I do today to push myself out of my comfort zone?
I like that.
So every single day I'm doing something. And for the most part, it's just like a cold shower or an ice bath.
Yeah.
But it's just having something every single day.
Yeah.
And also being accountable where, hey, this thing needs to be filled out.
Yeah.
What's going here?
It makes a huge difference. I think most people don't even think about anything like that. Like,
No.
when's the last time I was uncomfortable? Most people can't even answer because they just do their routine every day.
Well, I always talk about this. You go from a warm bed to warm clothes, into a warm car, to warm office, back into warm clothes, and you eating. Like, I think the average person eats 22 times a day, like food to mouth.
Yeah.
So I fast every day. I eat once or twice a day. I fast for maybe 22, 23 hours a day. I take cold showers every day. I'm now doing ice baths. I exercise most days. I'm doing Muay Thai now. Doing as many things I can on a consistent basis to make me uncomfortable. So I'm always growing.
Yeah.
And then when you run a business or things happen, it's like, this is easy.
It's no big deal because you're used to it already. That's why I try to, like, when I'm explaining it to my clients, I explain to them, like, it's a muscle, right? If you're constantly training this muscle, it's going to grow. If you're constantly training the ability to be uncomfortable, the things that make you uncomfortable are going to be so far and few between now because you're always training to be uncomfortable. So when you lose the job or the boy or the girl or whatever, like, it's not going to ruin your whole life. You're going to pivot. Okay, that's unfortunate. And you go right on to the next thing.
And you always know things are going to work out.
And
that, like, comes from experience.
It comes from experience.
Like, as a 40-year-old, I know things will work out.
Yeah.
No matter how bad it is, I know eventually it'll work out.
It's going to work out. As long as you do what you know you need to do, it's going to work out. It's that resilience piece.
Resilience being a perfect word.
Yeah.
I want to touch on the women's training. So I feel like there's a lot of women out there, or even people in general, but especially women, thinking that they need to go to the gym and lift weights.
Yeah.
And you're kind of doing the opposite. You're teaching them to box and you're doing a different type of fitness.
Yeah.
So what I'm touching on is do what you enjoy, right?
Yeah.
If you don't want to lift weights,
then don't.
If you enjoy boxing,
do it. That's the big thing I teach them. Do what you enjoy. It doesn't have to be like, well, everyone says that I need to run outside every day. If you don't enjoy that, don't do it. Or you
go do deadlifts.
Go do deadlifts. Like, do the thing that you enjoy because you will stick to it. So, like, boxing's a huge thing for a lot of them. I get, like, you know, a lot of girls who are like me, like independent businesswomen. They want to be better. They want to be uncomfortable. They want to grow in every aspect of their life. And we get in there and we start boxing. And then sometimes they'll start boxing and they're like, you know what? I do want to try weightlifting. Boom, I start putting them in a weightlifting program. You start to realize that it's not so much you didn't want to do these things, you were just afraid to do them, or maybe you were uncomfortable.
So like a stepping stone.
It's a stepping stone.
Okay.
Now you've got confidence in this aspect, right? You're getting fit. You know you can throw a punch. You feel like you're walking with your head up a little bit more. And now the weight training side of the gym isn't so scary to them because they've grown over here. Or like, oh, I never thought I would start running outside, but I started jogging outside now. You just start to see, like, all these little things. I think everyone gets stuck to, like, who they've been. I'm not a runner, but you can be.
That's interesting.
I'm not a lifter,
right?
but you can go lift the weights.
I've always been overweight. I've always been like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get caught up in that identity that's you forever.
And you don't have to hold on to it.
Yeah, that can be changed at any time.
Anytime, any day. I think that a lot about, you know, fitness people. I get people in there like, I've never been an athlete. I've never played a sport. I'm like, well, that's in the past. What can we do right now? If you want to be an athlete, let's do it. I can make you into an athlete. Like, whatever your thing is, and it's really not me doing it. It's them doing it and me just guiding them to there.
Guidance. Yeah.
But I think a big thing with people being successful is letting go of old identity.
Yeah, that's, on every aspect.
Every aspect. Fitness, health, you know, financially. I grew up, like, on the east side of Vegas, lower class, essentially. Like, I didn't grow up with fancy things. Parents had very regular jobs. My mom was a dancer. My dad was in construction, just regular life. And I remember like being a kid thinking about like, oh, do I want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a pilot or a brain surgeon or a trainer? And I would always think like badass fitness person, right? But you don't really see that growing up. So then I always tell people, if I knew when I was a kid I was going to be as ambitious as I am now, who knows? Like, I'd probably be doing a lot of crazy stuff, but I'm on my path, But I would always think like, oh, I grew up poor, so like I'm probably just going to work a regular job and be in that class for my whole life.
It's that environment.
It's
right?
that environment.
But
then
the environment dictates.
Yeah,
unless, and I was the same, but unless you pick up a book or you start talking to the right people, you tend to be governed by like your environment.
It's your environment. And it's not like
5 closest friends type of thing.
Exactly. And you can't even really blame, like, you can't blame your parents and your friends and all that because they're doing the best they can. But if like, when I was a kid, I never thought I can grow up and be an entrepreneur and decide how much money I make and decide what my schedule is and decide all. I never thought that as a kid.
You didn't know it existed. Yeah,
I just saw regular jobs being worked to put food on the table for the kids,
I saw my dad go to 2-3 jobs and barely seem just to survive, just to get by.
Well, and that's the thing, it's funny, like we pick up a lot of what our parents do, right? My parents were all about like working a good job, putting in the work ethic, and get a job that's secure and has benefits, and that's like was a thing for them back in those days.
Right?
And I
Even
pulled
today.
Oh yeah, I pulled a lot from my parents of like working really hard for what you want and saving your money, and I got X, Y, and Z from them. But then I got better in training and I started getting clientele that were entrepreneurs, doctors, business owners, investors, and I started changing the way I saw work and money. And I realized, because I was kind of in this pool of people, you realize we spend more time at work than we do with our family. Actually, based on who I am and what I know, I can be an entrepreneur who makes her own money and pays her own bills and decides her own schedule and takes care of her family. I didn't grow up with that, but I'm in an environment now where like I can do it. I don't have to be living on the east side forever.
Yeah.
I love where I come from, but there's no nobility in being poor. I don't care what anyone says. Like, we're all trying to live a certain life and provide for our family.
Rich Dad Poor Dad was the book.
Such a good book.
That was my first business book, and
that was my first business book.
Was it?
And it started.
It flipped everything on its head.
It starts reframing everything.
Yeah.
And then you notice you start being around more people like that.
Everything I was taught as growing up, everything I saw was flipped on its head. And I was like, oh my God, there's another way.
There's another way.
Because I wasn't good at school. I wasn't passionate about school. I didn't want to be a doctor, lawyer. I didn't want to go to university.
Yeah.
But now I read 60 plus books a year, every single year. But it's stuff I want to learn about.
Yeah.
Psychology, business, entrepreneurship, fitness, diet, fasting, people skills, whatever I want to learn about.
Yeah.
So I get my own education on what I want to get better at.
Exactly.
And now I get to sit down with people like yourself and pick their brains too.
I'm telling you.
So it's great. And I was going to say, one of the biggest things I live by is work harder at working smarter.
Yeah. I like that.
Most of us think, oh, you got to work harder. We got to work harder. No, how can I work harder at working smarter?
Yeah.
And that's self-education, reading, talking to the right people, not being the smartest person in the room, 5 closest friends, your biggest influence, get the right friends, whatever it is, but just how to leverage yourself, whatever it is. But don't just put your head down and work harder and not ever step back and assess.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because all of that is not really taught in school.
Why would it be? It's no benefit.
No benefit.
It's no benefit to the government or the country to teach people that.
They want people to put their head down and work the 9 to 5 and just stay on this path.
Nod, smile, do what they're told.
Yeah, just like another brick in the wall type thing. But then, like you said, we have people over here, like I'm the same. Like, I will read a book. I will listen to the podcast. I will try to meet people who are outside of my usual realm because that's where we grow. That's where we get the opportunity. And like with the way books and podcasts are now, you can learn anything you want to. If I want to become an expert in this random thing.
You can pick up your phone and learn anything right now.
It's like, and that's why I tell people too, like anything you want to do, you can do it. If you have a phone, if you have people, if you have access to the internet, most people are self-taught nowadays. If you can get on there and just put some hours into learning the subject you want, and then you grow from there, like...
I do videography, photography, drones. Guess what? YouTube University.
Yeah, YouTube University.
That's where I learned. I had so many things I've learned from just self-education and just literally knowing. One of my favorite sayings is, I'm silly enough to think I can do anything, and I've just realized I can.
I love that. That's so spot on.
Kind of being naive to like, And I've always proved myself right. Hey, if I want to do this, I'll figure it out. And then, hey, you want to do this? Figure it out.
Yeah.
Or I can sit back, twiddle my thumbs, make an excuse under the sun, blame everything around me, and nothing changes. It's
about, like you said, just believing that you can do it, put the effort in, and then you realize, oh shit, I can do it.
I used to think, figuring out along the way.
Yeah. Like you said, when you start doing it, I used to think, when I was younger, like, oh, only these people can do these things because they have this kind of life. And I'm probably just going to be doing this. But then I started working my ass off and I started meeting the right people, putting myself to these networking events, reading the books. Like I just started doing all the work, and I'm not even anywhere close to where I want to be, but I feel like
you're on your way there.
I'm on my way there, and I feel very happy for where I'm at right now. And I look like, if I were to look at my old self or people who still think like that, I'm like, you know what? It's crazy. It's true. If you just put the work in, you can do it. All the people who are like, you just need to put the work in, get outside of your comfort zone. You literally can do and be anything you want to do. And I used to think that was BS. Like people just say that because they have these opportunities. And I'm like, no, I came from really not having anything. And I'm doing very well for myself as a young girl. Like I don't depend on anybody, no rich parents, no man in my life, like paying half the bills. Everything I do is funded by me. And I go on my trips and I live my life. And it's because I'm putting the work in.
You know who Dan Penner is? Have you heard of him? He's like an old school businessman. But he's like, as soon as you take accountability of your own life, soon your life changes.
That is so true. Like anytime, have you ever read, what's the book? Jocko?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on it right now. It's one of my...
it's that weird name, but yeah.
Yes. Oh, God. And I literally say it all the time because I'm always telling people about this book and I can't think of it.
It'll come back to us.
Extreme Ownership?
That's one of them. He's got two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
I like him, but...
Jocko's a badass.
He's a badass, but that's a huge thing. Like, now more than ever in my life, when something goes wrong, it's my fault. Like, whatever the thing is that I don't like is going on in my life, it is 100% my fault. I made this decision. I made this choice. I kept that person around longer. Like, whatever it is, it's on me.
And then you can also go deeper with that. And it's not so much what happens to you. It's the way you react and what happens to you.
And the way you react. And that's a huge thing too. Like taking anything and reacting to it is going to determine really like what happens with that. So,
and a simple way of putting it, if I leave my wallet on my car seat and my car gets broken into, my wallet gets stolen, I can look at it two ways. I can tell the next 50 people that, oh my God, my car got broken into, or like, hey, I shouldn't have left my wallet on the car seat. I'll never do that again.
Yeah. And those are...
Take you two different directions.
Two different ways to experience life. And like...
One's going to keep regurgitating that BS, and the other one's like, hey, this is a lesson learned.
And you can see that 80% of people handle it the latter. About 20% of us handle it this way. And it's almost so automatic for me now that like, I'll catch myself thinking about it and, something will happen. Something bad will happen. Like you said, something got stolen from me or whatever. And my automatic thought is, okay, I know how to not let this happen again. That's just what my mind goes to. It's not like, it's just, okay, well, at least this is happening now, so I don't have to deal with it in the future on maybe a bigger scale. So if every time something bad happens, you can just automatically rewire your brain to figure out why this is good, it's going to be good. And then it's not going to happen again. And you're going to keep living like life on this side of the tracks versus being a victim and pissed off all the time.
I was talking to Bray about this too. It's like not ever having self-doubting thoughts. Not like if this happens.
Yeah.
When this happens.
When
just
this happens.
Changing the way that you say everything and anything.
Yeah.
Makes a dramatic difference as well. I never doubt myself.
And you can't.
If I make a 5-minute ice bath, no, I will make it.
Yeah.
When I make this amount of money.
Yep.
When I have so-and-so on the podcast.
That's a huge thing I go through with my clients too. The little words that determine our life.
The way you talk to yourself.
The way you talk to yourself. Like you said, when I do this, I rarely am like, if I go on my run today, when I go on my run today.
You catch yourself,
like
right?
You catch yourself.
As soon as you say if, I'm like, why am I saying
I'm
if?
like, wait.
There is no ifs.
There's no ifs. You have to like catch yourself. I do this with my clients a lot too. I'll give them like, a homework assignment for their workout. And I'm like, all right, well, we need to get you a timed mile in per this part of our program. So just, do your thing, send me your results. And sometimes they'll be like, okay, so I have to run a mile, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you get to run a mile. And, usually they'll like laugh and they're like, you're right. And sometimes I do have to get a little deeper on them. I'm like, how many people out there wish they could run a mile, wish they had legs? And they're like, okay, you're right.
Yeah.
But it is like everything we do, we get to do. I think about this driving home a lot. when I see like poor people out on the streets and all that.
That's a perfect example, right?
I think it all the time, like I get to go home right now to a hot shower and a warm bed, and not everyone gets to. And these are things we take for granted because we're so used to it. And it's like everything you do, you get to do, because there are people who will never be able to do these little simple things that you take advantage of.
Something that comes to mind was Christmas Day. Oh, I haven't got any family in America. So Christmas Day, I was driving somewhere and I was by myself. Saw a homeless person out on the street. I'm like, wow, that could be me. At least that's not me. And then, hey, at least I have a family. I'm not seeing them, but my family's still there.
Yeah.
And it's just keeping perspective. And then, hey, I'm in America, could be in a million worse places right now.
Yeah.
I'm in a car, like all these. You just got to look at the right way. And I feel like we lose that perspective.
Yeah, very easily.
And another thing I've been talking about a lot lately is rather than think about what you don't have, think about what you actually do have.
Yeah.
Appreciate what you have, not what you don't have.
Yeah. It really...
The simple stuff is...
It's the simple things.
Like us being able to sit here and just have a conversation like this, right?
Yeah.
Huge.
To be able to take a day out,
what is it?
sit
2/3
around.
of the world don't have access to clean water.
Yeah.
And we're sitting having a conversation in our own time,
I'm
comfortable.
telling you, we really we have a very good life. We put the work in. And I think if every day people, like you said, thought about what they did have versus what they didn't, total mind shift.
And then understand, if you want more, you have the ability to do it.
You have the ability to do it.
You could not be in a better country to do that.
There's no better place and no better time than right here, right now, to be who you want to be. Like, we have almost everything at our fingertips. If you're just willing, like you said, to be uncomfortable, get up, remember the things that you want, remember where you've been. There's so much that is accomplished through just this self-talk, talk with other people. It's not, it's not how it used to be. Like, I really feel like in today's day and age, anybody can be whatever it is, no matter where they came from, if you put the work in and if you have the tough conversations with yourself.
With yourself, are you willing to do that?
Yeah.
What's the networking events? What's that been like for you?
So I'm super big on I get asked a lot to go on random people's podcasts that I don't know. And for me, look at us now. We're going to train together. We're homies. Yeah. I'm getting a lot of good
honestly, just to jump in, that's my favorite thing about this podcast.
Yeah.
Is I wanted to find more people like yourself. I have now done 52 episodes. I have now made 52 new friends and relationships who have added so much value in my life. It's priceless.
It's priceless. And you think too, how often do we sit down with someone that we don't really know for an hour and we just talk?
And have a proper conversation. We're not talking about the weather or complaining about people.
Yeah,
so-and-so just got her lips done.
Shit like that.
I hate that stuff.
Proper conversations.
Yeah.
And that's what I do a lot. I'll go to networking events. One of my clients invited me to this party or this Christmas party or this team building event. And, I try to go to places where I don't know anyone but one person. And for a lot of people, that's really scary.
Yeah, I've been done this year too.
Yeah, even to go somewhere by yourself where you actually don't really know anyone. You just got invited.
I've been to maybe 4 or 5 pretty much just this year, actually. Maybe last month, last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a confident guy, but it made me uncomfortable.
It's scary because you don't know everyone. Everyone has their friends and you're just kind of going in and being yourself. And I mean, it always turns out good. You always make friends and you meet people. But even for the most confident people, initially walking into that room where everyone knows each other and you don't, it's uncomfortable.
The first one I went to, it was at night. Everybody was half drunk.
Yeah.
I didn't drink. So I was just I could see people, I could see it wasn't just me who was everybody's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the fact that most people had to drink to make themselves comfortable, I'm this is interesting. I'm definitely not drinking because I want to do this the hardest way possible.
The hardest way possible. And that's kind of what I get when I'm doing my no drinking stints. They're really random. I told you I did the one last year. I'm doing it now. 2019, I did one that was supposed to be January and it lasted the whole year. I was I'm gonna just do the whole year. But you do realize in social environments, 99% of people are drinking to be more comfortable. So obviously being totally sober and not accepting the drink and being just on a little bit different level than everyone else, it's uncomfortable.
That even goes back to when you're younger and going out, dating, picking up.
Yeah.
Everyone's drinking for the common cause, right?
Honestly, the times that I'm not drinking, and I'm not some hippy dippy, don't drink alcohol. I love to have a shot of tequila here and there and do my thing. But the times I'm not drinking, is when I realized how pushed society is with drinking. Like if you're not drinking, something's wrong with you. Like there's just so many things.
Try fasting and see the conversations that come
Fasting.
up. Do you ever fast?
So usually once a week I'll do like a full day fast.
Okay, yeah, so you get it.
Yeah.
Try telling you're not eating for a day. Oh my God, you're gonna die.
You're gonna die. I'm like,
why would you starve yourself?
And
that is so bad for you.
People cannot fathom it.
Why would you jump in cold water? You're gonna get sick.
Yeah, everyone comes with all the things of why you shouldn't be doing it, but you can tell it's just ingrained in them. They don't get it.
Yeah, and then I love the thing that comes with that is I could never do that.
Oh God,
I could never skip breakfast. I could never jump in cold water.
That's a huge thing.
Bet you could.
Yeah,
you're just too weak-minded to even think of a possibility.
I tell them this all the time, like, because it'll be, I could never do the ice bath. I could never eat like that. I could never get up at 6 a.m. and go run. I could never. But I'm like, actually you could. And sometimes we'll be doing an exercise, like maybe it's just throwing punches with weights, right? And they're like, oh, my arms hurt. And I'm like, it's been 1 minute. And they're like, I can't do it anymore. And I always tell them, if this was a life or death situation and you had to do it, your arms could go for an hour. But you don't have to do it. So therefore you can't do it.
I like that. Getting the deeper purpose.
You have to get deep into it. Like,
I like that.
I think that honestly, when I'm running, I have to get inside my own head to do hard things. And sometimes I'll go like trail running and it's like really hot or really cold or whatever it is. And I'll get tired and I'll start telling myself like, okay, but if this was life and death, could you do it? And then I'll start running faster.
That. I'm going to use that.
It works.
Yeah, no, I could totally see that.
Like I have to do weird things in my head. I'll be running to on the street poles and I'm like, if I don't sprint to that next street pole, my whole family's going to die. And then I just go like.
I'm going to use that. Because when you do the ice baths, if you keep still, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
If you're constantly moving, it's like, I would say 10 times colder. So now I'm like, okay, if you had to move the whole time, if it was life and death, could you do it?
Could you do it? And really, when it comes down to it, there was a situation I went through a couple years back. It's funny now, but it wasn't funny then. But I almost died. I was out with a buddy and we were going hiking. Arizona Hot Springs area? It's like all canyons, right?
Yeah.
So we planned a day off work. Yeah, it's a beautiful place. We planned a day off work and we're like, we're going to go hiking. We're going to spend a whole day hiking, BSing. And then the day before, flash flood warnings came on.
Oh.
Yeah. So they were like, flash flood in the canyons. It's supposed to rain and it's a canyon. Have you ever seen that movie? I think it's like 127 hours.
I couldn't watch it.
Dude.
I don't like movies like that.
It's a little gnarly.
I started and I was like, I don't go looking for that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. But the whole survival aspect, like I really did respect because it's based on a true story. Like those canyons feel like that. And it's a canyon. There's nothing soaking up water.
200-foot walls there, right?
Yeah.
Huge.
So they feel super quick. Long story short, we were like immature and we're like, we already took the day off work. We already packed. We're going. So we're like, if we get up in the morning and the skies are clear, we'll go. And if it's raining, we won't go. We get up, skies are clear. So we go hiking. We got our bags and we finally get to the bottom of the canyon, right? So we were like going through rocks. We're at the bottom of the canyon and like clockwork, boom, boom, boom. Sun covers and clouds coming out of nowhere, right? And it's just me and my buddy are still there at this point. One of my old girlfriends and her dude were with us. They were not fit people. They were not in shape. They left early because they got tired. So we're like, all right, you guys go. We're going to do our thing. Me and my other buddy, pretty active, right? It starts pouring rain out of nowhere and we're in the bottom of the canyon. And we kind of have this surreal moment. And he looks at me. He's like, we need to go. And we just start running out of the canyon and the canyon's filling. It's like a movie. We're running. We have our backpacks on and it's about 2 miles sprint uphill to get back to like.
In that rough sand.
Yeah, in the rough sand and the rocks.
Which is hard enough to walk in that stuff.
It's hard enough to walk in, right?
I hate walking that stuff.
Dude.
It's like slight incline.
Your ankles are everywhere. Like it's tough.
I literally had to carry my dog back last time.
Yeah.
Because it's that tiring.
It's very taxing on you. And now think about doing it for 2 miles and we were at a sprint pace the whole time. And there was a point, the sun had just started going down, so it's pretty much pitch black, except for every time lightning strikes, we get like lit up for a second. And we had a moment of light and I looked behind me and no bullshit, water was on my heels, like just like rushing in. It was like, it looked like the Hoover Dam, the way water was just rushing at us. So I look back and I'm like, boom, boom, we're running. He's a little bit ahead of me. And I slip at one point because now everything's wet. And I slip and I fall and he turns around and he's like, get up. Like it's like life and death.
Yeah, yeah.
And I turn around after I fall and I see the water coming to my heels. And I have this moment of like, it is life and death and you need to go. And I just get up and I run. And the whole time, like the water's like on my heels. And I remember I kept thinking like, I'm not going to die. I was saying it out loud. I'm like, I'm not going to die here. I'm not going to die here. I'm not going to die here. And I kept picturing and hoping. A motivator for me was like, I don't want them to have my dad come identify my body out here. That was a huge thing. I'm like, I just pictured a helicopter and my dad and them looking for me. And it was just,
it's a lot going through your
it's
mind.
just so much. And I never been in a situation like, this is why I tell people, I don't care how much of a badass you are. When it comes to Mother Nature, you're nobody.
Oh, yeah,
like it is all powerful. There's nothing you can do. And we got to the top of this canyon. And once we finally got to the top, we just kind of collapsed because we were so tired. And you could see all the water rushing and the canyon was pretty much full. Like we had just made it out. And so we go to the car, we take off our outer layer of clothes, and then everything sets in now because adrenaline, you don't feel it.
Yeah.
And like, you know, we start turning red and like we feel like we're going to pass out, and we just kind of lay there and let it all soak in. And I remember telling him, like, if those two other people were with us, they would have died.
They would have died.
It was a 2-mile sprint with gear, like, and I don't remember feeling tired at all. But once we were done, I remember just collapsing and like being on the verge of tears. For weeks after, I had all these dreams about like drowning and all that shit.
Yeah, I bet you do.
And eventually you make it out. But I remember thinking like, I had to tell myself this is life and death and you need to go. And your body goes into a whole nother mode. I sprinted uphill. I didn't get tired. I didn't feel fatigued. Like, but obviously once we got back, everything sets in.
Yeah, that I always think about that. It's literally, it's a lake bed with enormous walls without anything to hold on to
it's
whatsoever.
Scary. If you really like take a bad slip while that water is there, flash floods are no joke. And this was the same year. I don't remember, know if you remember this. There had been some hikers out in Utah, somewhere like that's a famous hiking spot. And they were experienced hikers and they all died because of a flash flood. There was like 4 of them. They were in their 40s.
Oh yeah, maybe actually.
And it was a couple months after that. And that's why we were like, okay, we're jackasses. Like these people just died in a flash flood.
Not learning a lesson.
You don't learn your lesson. Obviously now I'm like, hey, Mother Nature. But that's a perfect example of like, if I didn't live this lifestyle and I wasn't healthy and fit, I don't think I would have made it out of that canyon.
I was going to say just being prepped to a certain point.
Just being prepped because you really never know. Like I think about it all the time. Like that girl and her dude, I'm so glad that they left early. I think they got in an argument. That's why they left early. I guarantee if they would have stayed, they would have died that day because it was just like, it was a sprint for your life at that point. And if you don't have a basis of just being generally fit, like you never know when shit can hit the fan. It was honestly like I said, I can kind of joke about it now, but at the time it was really like a scary event.
My final question kind of ties into that. So you talk about being fit, being prepped. I want to touch on like finding your why, finding your way. Like, I mean, you talked about being healthier, being able to run, being able to survive, but how do you avoid having a heart attack or a mild heart attack before you learn your lesson that you need to get healthier? How do you not become a pre-diabetic or a diabetic to realize that, hey, I need to cut my sugar back? How do you encourage other people to find their why in a deeper reason?
I think, so something that I do like ask a lot of my clients or anyone who seeks my help out is I'll ask them why, right? Like, okay, well, why do you want to get in shape? And they'll always start with a very surface level answer. Well, I just want to be healthier. And then I'm like, okay, why do you want to be healthier? Well, so-and-so told me this. And I'm like, okay, well, why did so-and-so telling you that make you like, I just basically, if you keep
getting deeper.
Yeah. If you keep asking someone why, and then they'll start crying and they'll tell you, I was 10 years old when my dad died from diabetes and I have kids and the thought of leaving them early makes me feel like this. And so like,
so you'll dig as deep as you have to.
I dig as deep as I have to because that's really what we need. Like everyone wants to feel happy, confident, like they're a good spouse and a good family member. And you really can't get there with people with just asking why one time because everyone's going to say, I just want to be healthier. I just want to look better. I really like peel back layers. And sometimes it takes time. Like it takes a couple sessions for people to really tell you. But it's always like most of the time it's related to something that somebody has made them feel in the past, whether it's a parent or a friend or, you know, I was going to get engaged and this guy left me for this girl who looked like this and I don't look anything like that. It's always something deep like that. And I encourage like people, the most important thing it should be is for you to go through this life being healthy, being confident. Because when you are that person, you don't really care how other people will make you feel because you have it in yourself. So I think that's like even the deepest level of like, okay, you don't want to feel these negative things people have made you feel. But what if you could get so solid and so confident and so sure of yourself as a person and who you are,
yourself, right?
securing
Learn
yourself,
to love yourself,
learning, and it sounds cheesy, but literally learning to love yourself, like truly and genuinely, is the key to everything. Nobody, I can't like, it's really hard for anyone to like make me feel sad or upset or embarrassed or like I'm so sure of who I am now. And I have not been this way my whole life.
But you've been working on it.
Yeah, I've been working on it my whole life. I've been like that young girl who wasn't a confident girl, or that kid who wasn't confident or felt self-conscious or walked with my head down and didn't want to go into a room full of people I didn't know. Like I had to spend time being like that to get out of it.
I like that. Yeah, I like who I am as a man. I like who I'm becoming every day. Did I always be like that? No, but I'm constantly working on that. I'm constantly growing. I'm constantly pushing. I'm constantly educating myself. I'm constantly surrounding myself with the right people. So I've learned to like be proud of who I am. I'm always early. I've got integrity. I have 100% integrity. I treat people the way I want to be treated. All these little things will attract the right people to you. Yeah. And by being that person, you learn not to care about anybody else, what they think. And having this podcast, I said this the other day, I'm going to get ripped apart on this podcast. Going to have a lot of good people going to support it, and also going to have a lot of people going to hate on it. But that's just part of it, and I've accepted that from literally the first podcast. But I would rather do something than sit at home and worry about what may happen and not take any action.
It's funny you say that. Last year So last year I was supposed to start my podcast, right?
You're going to start one, were you?
I was going to start one. And honestly, like I still have it on the plan for like this spring. But, you know, I was like, oh, I'm so busy. I'm doing all these things. And I was like trying to figure out all the little reasons of why I hadn't started it, right? Even to this day. And then I had to like recognize a part of myself that was like, well, you know what? Especially in today's like world, like I'm going to get torn apart quite a bit because of the way I think and who I am, and like
no matter what,
even
if you're the most pretty girl with the most perfect body and you said the most perfect stuff, someone's still gonna hate on you. There's
still gonna be haters out there.
So many haters on you.
But
Will Smith says this: you try to impress everybody, you impress nobody. And that's always stuck with me. And I've realized no matter who I am or what I do, what I talk about, I'm always gonna have haters. And if you're not getting haters, you're not doing anything.
And that's kind of like something I had to even check myself on, is like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Everyone has haters. Everyone's going to have something. Like you could have the most perfect everything. Somebody will find that one thing about you that's not perfect and try to do their thing. Or they can
look at something on the background and pull that apart. Or, hey, you spelt this wrong in the title. It's so stupid. You said
this, or you looked like this.
Hey, this is how you cure cancer. But someone was like, hey, you spelled cancer wrong.
And that's how most people are nowadays.
It's so crazy.
But like you said, like, those people are the people who are not confident. They're not happy with themselves. And so they project on other people
down.
But then also on the flip coin, like when we get to this point, like we can sit on here and talk all day. I don't give a shit what anyone says about me, because I know that I'm a great person with integrity. I do the right thing. I treat people well. Like I'm so good in who I am. Cancel me if you want to. I don't give a shit. Disagree. Do your thing. Unfollow me.
I don't care.
I know who I am, and the people that I respect and the kind of people I want to be around, they know who I am. They're good with this. Like those kind of people, I don't, eventually, like you said, they don't even matter. They're not even noise anymore. They're just like a little gnat in the background that you shoo away.
Even my negative comments, I'm like, thanks for watching.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, you're still watching.
That's all I say. I'm like, and I always say that, like, start creating and stop consuming. Like, and if someone's trying to pull me down, I'm like, well, at least I'm trying to help other people. What are you doing?
What are you doing? I'm telling you, you're going to be one of the guests on my podcast.
Yeah, I would love that.
Dude, it's going to be good. And it's kind of what we're doing now. Like, we're sharing these things with each other. There are people who get a lot out of this. There's always going to be haters. But aside from the haters, if even one or two people watches this and goes and does something they wouldn't have done before, we're good.
Even one person.
One
person does anything from us. But honestly, even getting on selfish reasons, stuff I've learned from you, that's enough for me too.
Yeah, and vice versa.
New friend, got some new value. What else do you need?
That's like honestly my favorite part.
Here's a stat for you. There's 2 million podcasts in the world. 1.3 million of them won't get past 20 episodes.
No shit.
So you're in the 700,000 range once you make past 20 episodes.
Hey, you're in there.
So it's one of those things. It's hard. Like what you only changed dates once, right?
Yes.
People cancel, people change, don't hear back from people. It's literally like business.
It is, honestly.
I'm constantly chasing people. I'm constantly following up.
Yeah.
But that's just the way I am, and that's what I'm used to. Therefore, I'm fine with it.
And
I'm not scared to ask a complete stranger either.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
I think that's super important. Like you said, not being scared to follow up and say, hey, like, where you at? Can we do this? Da, da, da.
I'll persist until you tell me to stop.
You have to. And that's
just the way I am.
What's going to separate you from them? Most people take no the first time it gets told to them.
Nope.
Or the first inconvenience, they're like, ah. And it's just like, even me, I know once I get mine up and running, like, there's not going to be any stopping me. And I'm very much like sure of who I am. And if those people want to cancel me, I don't really care. But I know I'm going to have like these interactions. People like you, the people you have on the show, like.
And the personal growth and the things I've learned over 52 episodes has been invaluable. And invaluable.
I think we touched on this a little bit earlier, but people don't realize how valuable it is to just sit down with someone that you don't already know and talk about real shit. Like everyone's very surface level, or everyone only wants to talk to their friends, but like just sitting down.
The little niches, right? Yeah.
Putting your phone down and just sitting down and literally talking for over an hour.
And another thing too, if you have a book, you've told me what you want to tell me.
Yeah.
If I sit down and talk to you, I can ask you anything I want.
Yeah.
As long as you're happy to answer that, I can ask you anything there is. So that's like, I love reading, but it only ever tells me what everyone else gets. So now I get a deeper level on everybody as well.
And I honestly, like, I have these conversations with my close friends quite a bit. Like, me and one of my boys will just be talking, shooting the shit, or one of my homegirls. And an hour will pass, and I'll be like, dude, we could have had a whole podcast episode on this. Because it's genuine conversation. It's things
and it's good stuff, right?
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's things other people want to hear and need to hear, are going through. And it's so rare, like, especially nowadays, like, everyone's super on their phone. You'll see, you go to a restaurant, you'll see two people not talking to each other, but on their phones.
See a whole table like it, right?
A whole table. And I'm like, we don't realize how much value you get from other humans. Even today, just the things you've talked about, the things I've learned, different perspectives, like other humans are I think like, it's just like a deep, unlimited well of knowledge. And people don't want to sit down and have talks anymore.
And that's why we're all lonelier than ever and disconnected.
And that's why everyone is so lonely and disconnected. But I'm like, if all those people, like, if you were to just ask that friend out to lunch, put your phones down and sit down for an hour. If you did that once a week versus like all day, every day.
And when do you ever get off your phone and feel happier? If you're scrolling through social media, do you ever get off your phone and feel happier?
Yeah, it's kind of like...
I know I don't.
Yeah.
And on my part, and my social media is all positive and good stuff. And like, I'm always learning, but it still doesn't necessarily make me happy.
It's not. It's like, it's cool to interact, spend some time, but I feel the best like when I leave here.
Yeah.
When I leave here, I'm like, damn, that was a cool guy. We talked about some good stuff. I'm excited to do it again. You always leave, at least me personally, feeling better talking to someone than like sitting on my phone for an hour.
100%.
Telling you.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Do it again sometime. You come on mine, I'll come back here whenever you want.
Sounds good to me.
I'm a talker. I can like talk.